Okay, sorry about that wait, guys, but we are getting started now. I'm sure the players are well on their way, but welcome to Wizarding Wars number 5. Little Harry Potter trading card game on Tuesday nights here for you. I know that most of the people who tune into this channel are used to seeing some Final Fantasy trading card game, but every once in a while we like to bring a little awareness to the fan-made revival group for the Harry Potter trading card game and Wizards of the Coast game. That is quite fun from the early 2000s. So let's go ahead and jump right into our game tonight. Let's watch. We've got Mike Diaz versus Nick at table 1 here. Let's get it on the board, see what is going on. All right, so we're obviously in the middle of the game here because we're just jumping in well into round 1. But it looks like Mike is playing a deck starting with, is this Ginny maybe the starter? That's pretty neat. We haven't seen a Ginny Weasley starter character deck yet. And it looks like he is doing characters with Lockhart's Hair Care Potions. This is a pretty neat item that gives your deck basically the Ron starting character ability. It lets you play character cards for only 1 action instead of 2. And it's allowing him to play a character style deck akin to the Ron version, but without, of course, Ron here. And it looks like we are playing Hover Charms against Mike here. Hover Charm, of course, is choose one of your opponent's cards and play it, return it to their hand. So we're going to go and start walking back some of his lessons. And oh man, I know, ooh, Stefan, I know you have a buy. I don't know if you're watching. But I can't tell yet, but Mike might be playing one of our super spicy new decks. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, obviously, you know, Ginny, we've tried a couple different Ginny starter decks, but just looking at some of his card choices, trying to figure out what his win condition is. But clearly the characters deck has spent most of this game establishing a board. I'm sure that when we got up to 4 lessons, we used a lot of Dobby's disappearances, because as we can see, there really aren't any cards on Nick's side of the board. Let me go ahead and get the names up here, because I'm talking about the players, but you guys don't necessarily know who's where. Mike Diaz is on top. There we go. I mean, because each of these characters you figure is an action, so Mike's just played a lot more cards on the table. To me, that says that Nick has had some of his stuff removed, but also we watched him investing some of his actions into just those spells to remove some of Mike's items in play. But it looks like we're going to play a couple more lessons down, gain that action off of Seamus, and we're going to play Locked In. Oh, he is! Oh, Stefan, I hope you're watching. The burrow is a surefire sign. So what is the burrow? Well, what the burrow is it's a location. It says before each player's turn, if that player has fewer than 4 cards in his or her hand, that player draws cards until he or she has 4. So it encourages players to play out their hands and get to a low number of cards. However, there's a little bit of a combo that's available with the burrow. And there it is. So, Snuffling Potion. Okay. So, what Mike did is he used the ability of the character Marcus Flint to make his opponent discard 3 cards from his hand. Now he's using Snuffling Potion. Snuffling Potion says that next turn, whenever your opponent draws a card, they discard it instead of putting it into his or her hand. Well, where's the combo? Do you guys see it yet? It's right here. In the Harry Potter trading card game, there is no in-between turns phase. So what happens here is that Snuffling Potion triggers, and basically every single card that Striker draws, or that Nick draws his next turn, goes into the discard pile. And because the burrow, technically in between turns, happens on his turn, but before the draw step. According to Pojo's own rulings WTC's own rulings on Harry Potter, there is no between turns. So before turns actually happens, as soon as you pass the turn, it's the next player's turn. They resolve any before your turn or between turn things before their draw step, but it technically happens during their turn. You can look at the rulings because of they do things with Neville Longbottom and preventing damage in between turns. Oh, excuse me. I'm happy to link the ruling. We have perused extensively. But actually, I don't know why maybe Mike's being nice here. It's not that it's eroded, it's just knowing when that takes place. I wonder why Mike's not telling him. That's an auto win if your opponent has less than 4 cards in their hand, which is the tricky thing. I wonder if they're talking about it now. Yeah, Mike's probably going over it since there's no other actions happening. So yeah, one more time we'll just go over. So the burrow is a location that's before each player's turn. If that player has fewer than 4 cards in his or her hand, they draw cards until they have 4. Snuffling Potion says that whenever they draw a card, they discard it instead of putting it into their hand. So they never get up to 4 cards. Yeah, there's one for you. That's one of our little secrets there. That's a fun deck. I mean, this combo can be put into literally anything that has, green and blue. Build it how you'd like. These guys are showing you one of our ways that we like to do it is in a character shell using Marcus Flint, who is a once per game discard 3 cards from hand, as well as things like Draco. We actually have tried Memory Charm at one point, but it ends up just not being worth getting all the way up there. But yeah, there it is, dude. That is a combo. That was one of our. So you know what we tell players all the time, and one of the reasons that we were excited to start holding these is that there's a lot more to explore in Classic. Right? There are decks that people have never found. There are combos people have not used, and there's some cool stuff to check out, man. So this is not even an overly powerful combo. It takes a bit to set up, and you kind of can see it coming. But I'll tell you right now, if you see the burrow, get worried. Get a little bit, expect it. Now let's talk about those cards outside of that combo. Snuffling Potion is an incredible card. Snuffling Potion is a 4-cost card that says that your opponent doesn't get to draw any cards next turn. Every card that they draw, in fact, is put into the discard pile. So your opponent is stuck only with whatever options they have in their hand. Even if they've invested in characters like Peeves or like Colin Creevy that allow them to generate extra cards, or Ginny, for example, it puts those cards straight into the discard pile, and it really stops your opponent from finding an answer. It's a pretty interesting card. You can use a Snuffling Potion early to kind of slow them down and then ramp it into deboning type stuff if that's what you're into. But the only 2 cards that are necessary for that combo is you just need to have your opponent at less than 4 cards in hand, and Snuffling Potion and the burrow. So there's a new one for you. I didn't think that we were showing people this yet, actually. To be fair, this is December, right? Yeah, actually, this is a 1-year anniversary of the what is it called? The Triwizard Cup at PAX Unplugged last year, where we showed up and got to play against everybody with the Ron deck for the first time. Um, and we haven't had any in-person tournaments since. I know that that's It's checking to see whether or not you have 4 cards. Not that it determines, like a number and then makes you draw up to that number. There is a similar interaction in Magic. Yeah, I mean, there's similar interactions in a few different games. It's usually like, in order to set something up like that, it's very specific. So in this instance, it is very specific, right? They need to have a certain number of cards in their hand, and you need to have both of these cards. But yeah, because in this game you aren't able to interact on your opponent's turn, there are a few things like this that are maybe a little bit easier to set up. They have to kind of preempt this happening. It's one of the reasons that we like to play best of 3 in Classic 2, right? Or in general, in most card games, you want to give your opponent, like, okay, you understand what's going on now. I didn't just kind of bamboozle you. So now in the next game, you have some chance for counterplay. If this one's a little tough, you want to make sure that you are actually dropping actions into drawing cards. Doesn't the Pojo site mention you technically draw cards one at a time? Yes, it does. We could find that ruling too. Yeah, trust me. Before we ever like let ourselves believe that this was how this worked, we did a lot of research. And what's funny is Stefan might remember this, but we actually asked questions about this ruling interaction, but what we found a different scenario where the interaction would happen. We already knew the ruling according to WTC, but we asked the players just to see what people thought, and it wound up being consistent. So that is that cat's out of the bag there, guys. That's a fun new deck you can play or build around. It's just I think that right now there's very few win conditions, and we kind of all know what the best win conditions are, right? It's like Steel Claw, VTJ into VTJ or VTJ DH. The character deck with the, like a venomous, or sorry, not venomous, grip hook, like just doubling the hand, like type stuff, drawing out. Swallowed Snitch with the 30 damage mash. Some of these are just like the obvious build arounds. And we're happy to introduce this new one to you guys. So now you have the Burrow and Snuffling Potion is a new build around combo. One of the cool things that it's also in potions and charms, and it's a little bit low to the ground. And one of our favorite things about the combo is that it's a combo that uses a location. And this is probably the only location that's ever been like this impactful, like that is directly involved in the win condition. So that's pretty neat too. Locations, they're pretty good in like Quidditch, or Wand Shop is good for making sure that you really ramp up fast. But other than those, locations don't get a lot of love. So it's pretty cool, especially a card like the Burrow coming in and seeing play here. And Snuffling Potion, man, this is a card that admittedly I myself slept on for a long time, and our whole group slept on. Just outside of the combo is very powerful, preventing your opponent from getting any more options or adding anything to their hand. And this is a base set card, man. These guys knew what they were doing. This is a very fun design for a card for early on in a game. But I believe we're getting the results in here. So this was over. Let's see if we... Oh, not starting soon. Switching tables. Let's see if we can go and get the other game, or if they're already done. I still think it's pretty funny these guys busted this out. This was very difficult not to talk about because it's so cool, right? Oh, goodbye, Super Band. Oh, I can't spectate their game for some reason. Maybe they disabled the spectators. But that's okay. What we can do is, while we wait for them, we can look at the cards real quick. You can come on over to Ask You here, look up the Burrow. By the way, a wonderful website. If you guys don't use Asio.cards, you should be. to look at all of the Harry Potter cards. Shout out to the community for putting this together. So we have the Burrow here. It's a Chamber of Secrets rare. Oh man, those damn Chamber of Secrets rares, huh? They're all so good. The Burrow, love the art on this card, is before each player's turn, if they have fewer than 4 cards in their hand, they draw until they have 4. And then, of course, that combos with the Snuffling Potion, which is next turn, whenever they draw a card, they discard it instead of putting it into his or her hand. A big part of that deck is being able to discard cards from their hand to prevent them from stopping that combo. And Marcus Flint is a big part of that. Now, Marcus Flint is expensive. He costs 2 actions, and so unless you're using it that turn, I mean, it's very difficult to use Marcus Flint, and hit the combo. So the combo usually requires and telegraphs a bit of setup here. So Marcus Flint coming down on the table is a surefire sign to me. If you see Marcus Flint and any potions or any charms in the deck, from now on, you guys know. That means Burrow combo. So Burrow combo coming from Marcus Flint is he's going to take 3 of the cards out of your hand, and that's really powerful. I mean, like, you'd look at a card like Draco. Draco trades 1 action to take 1 card out of their hand. Marcus Flint is able to, he doesn't require any actions once he's down, so he's an early investment. Then you use his once per game effect. You discard 3 cards out of their hand to bring them down into that range. And you get him with the Marcus Flint. Now, obviously, cards that are very good at countering the Burrow. Of course, we're playing Classic, so we got to mention Ginny. Ginny Weasley as a starter or as an additional character, just very good at countering the Burrow because she lets you just fill your hand up with cards. That's one of the reasons that in our list we like to start with Ginny. We call it Ginny's Secret Combo. We like that Ginny kind of making sure that we start with her and that our opponent, if they aren't starting Ginny, doesn't get to play her to get out of the Burrow combo. Peeves is another good one. He helps make sure that if your hand is getting a little bit low, you can bounce it back up to 7. Colin Creevy is another good character. Oh, not Colin. I always spell your name wrong. Colin Creevy here. He lets you draw 3 cards for an action on your turn to accelerate so you can kind of draw faster than they can discard your cards. And then also, of course, just anything that refills the hand. So like Endless Sandwiches is a good one. You draw until you have 7 cards in your hand. Things like that. You can also prevent them from, you can get rid of the location. Prevent them from playing spells with, there's all those different cards that prevent those types of things. Like, I was about to say Snuffling Potion, but that's not what it's called. Forgetfulness Potion. Forgetfulness Potion and Deboning. But some cool stuff going on, guys. So new OTK, new little thing for you guys to learn. And another way to clap Ron, if anybody's playing classic Ron decks against you, let me tell you, you want to beat Ron, and you want to beat Ron bad, you play the Ginny's Secret Combo against it. It'll absolutely destroy it. So these guys have got to still be in their game. But I can't spectate it because they haven't reported, but it's grayed out when I go to spectate for them. Oh wait, no, there we go. Now it's letting me. I don't know why. Oh my. Looks like Frank is playing Ron. Oh, he might be doing a Ron version of the combo. He's definitely starting with Ron Weasley here, as we see just a full vomit of character cards onto the table. But the Marcus Flint, again, remember what I just said. Marcus Flint with Charms and Potions is a dead giveaway that this deck has Burrow combo as one of the kill combos, one of the win conditions. Dead giveaway. In this matchup, I would just make sure I'm always sitting that. Remember, Marcus Flint gets rid of 3 cards, and they want you below 4. So if they have Draco out, remember they can get that extra card or 2 per action, but they need to generate extra actions to still combo you. So remember that the combo always requires 2 actions. But yeah, so I would say with the Marcus Flint out right now, the safe number of cards to have in your hand is 7+. Probably want it like 8+ just to be super safe. while we watch these guys right here, I'm actually going to pop over and see if I can find that ruling. One of the tricky things about rulings on cards like these is that these cards came out at the very end of the game's life. It's also when they got like the craziest um, with different effects. Pretty neat that they started experimenting with cool stuff, but mm-mm-mm. So it's a Ron versus creatures. This is a classic card for the Ron deck. The Quarrel. Quarrel just kind of shuts down any creature or item shenanigans. Um, Quarrel comes down, the Burrow comes down, and we pass. So at this point, we know our opponent knows about the combo. By playing the Burrow and passing, we're showing our opponent that they literally can't play cards. Right? Because if we have the Snuffling Potion, and it looks like Frank has like a 15 card hand, then our opponent is going to be in a bit of a pickle. So yeah, it looks like we are actually oh, maybe we're not sure about that. It looks like we used an action. Oh, we used 2 actions to draw cards actually. So we used an action to draw a card, and then we almost played the black bat, but then we decided against it, and we used another action to draw a card. Now, here's where, you know, of course we've been playing with this, right? So we're a couple steps deep. So you see the combo, learning about the combo. Step 1, step 2, obviously is like, okay, I need to draw and keep a bunch of cards in my hand to stop the combo. Step 3 for us is, hey, if our opponent's going to be putting a bunch of cards in their hand, we'll just grip hook them, right? So Frank now got his opponent to basically skip that turn by drawing a bunch of extra cards in their hand and not putting anything on the board. Frank is going to Dobby's a card back to their hand, and then Snuffling Potion, he's going to lock the hand size right there and say that they don't get anything else. Very interesting to me that Frank would play the Snuffling Potion without destroying the hand size there. I'm sure he's sitting on a bunch of snuffling potions though, and so maybe he just doesn't mind playing it like 2 or 3 turns in a row. Yeah, so basically now, I'm sorry, I didn't put the names up. This is Wamin on the bottom. So Wamin's gonna have to decide. Okay, I could either I didn't get to draw any extra cards, so now my hand size is capped. It's hard capped at 7. So if I play any cards now, it gets harder for Frank to come. Well, Frank just revealed his hand to everybody, I guess. When he definitely shouldn't have revealed it to all. Should have just revealed it to me. Yeah, he showed his whole hand to his opponent. I appreciate what he's trying to do though. To help me kind of see what he's got in the hand, so we know what to do. Frank looks like he's going to be triggering Ginny here, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, plus the card for turn. So Frank draws 10 cards to start his turn. Seems like a pretty hard combo to fight against. Yeah, well, so it's very similar to the VTJ kind of thing, right? Like when they get it, there's nothing you can do about like in order to stop the VTJ combo, you have to have like one card in your hand, basically, at 1 or less, and they have to not be able to put like any other card back in your hand. Like it's possible for VTJ to just kill you from 2 cards in hand. So the thing is, like, for this, you want to have a high number of cards in your hand, but all of the things that are making the rest of this good, this exact list here, like having that grip hook at the end to pop off if they fill their hand with this, that's just strengths of the Ron deck anyway, right? And things that are good against Ron are going to be good against this build of this, like taking away the Ginny or taking away Seamus from him. Early pressure, remember, like a heavy, low to the ground, heavy aggro creature list. So we're talking like your creatures don't even get higher than 4, except for a couple Welsh Green Dragons that are there just for you to drop if they caught by Snape you on 4, and you have to play 3 lessons to get up to 7. But otherwise, you're just trying to... Oh, there's Magical Mess Remover. That's what Frank was looking for sure. Gonna let him clean up those characters that he's used already, like Flint and Hannah Abbott, which basically gives him access to every card in his discard pile, and Flint also gives him access to the more disruption on his opponent's side here. He's going to just Dobby back, I guess, this creature again. Maybe he Dobbies one of the lessons and Quarrels the creature. I would have been surprised if he didn't do that before the Magical Mess Remover, though. But yeah, basically, creature decks have a good chance against this because you're hitting them so fast they don't get to set some of the stuff up. If you send enough of the burrows or the potions to the discard pile, they have to get a couple different colors set up. But in general, this is a tier 1 classic deck, which means that it's starting its main strategy by turn 3, the latest. I think that traditionally Classic has been played as very slow and, for a lack of a better term, fair format, when actually it is extremely quick and efficient at like the most competitive kind of level. So they can be really long games, but some of the power plays start happening very, very early with things like characters and adventures. So Frank is just showing what he's getting back into the deck here. Probably just like discarding 2 cards, gain action, playing the Hannah, and getting some of these cards back. Can't tell exactly what we're doing here. But this might be the Snape heal, actually. Snape tapped. Frank probably just deciding what cards he wants to heal back into the deck. The thing is, with Ginny and this many characters, you're basically like, oh, I need to draw another one of these. So you just stick it back in the deck so you get another one. Unfortunately, this strategy is hard countering Draco Malfoy as well. Frank is always going to have so many cards in his hand that it's difficult for Draco. Oh, never mind. He's revealing hand to all because his opponent's using Draco, I imagine. There's not really that much that his opponent could take away. I mean, so removing the Snuffling potions from his hand is a really good way to know that he doesn't have the combo in his hand, but you have to do a little bit more than that to actually win. Here, I imagine we're going to take the Dobby's Disappearance out of his hand. Looking at his hand, we see there's no other magical mess removers. So, the Snape is tapped out. He does still have a Pomfrey to use to heal. But the cards that we're most afraid of, we don't want to see Snuffling Potion. We don't want to see Marcus Flint. We don't want to see Dobby's Disappearance. So there's one Dobby's there. That might be what we take. We need to start getting some creatures down. Sneak in some damage whenever we can. Hope that we hit the right cards off Frank's deck. Basically punish him for drawing so many cards and going so low. That's the best way to punish the Ron decks, being so greedy with their card advantage. There's the Flint and there's the Snuffling Potion. That's game. I mean, yeah, probably going to get there with the drawing an extra 10 cards at the beginning of the turn. But yeah, GG's. That's it. Snuffling Potion and the Burrow behind the Flint with the 5 cards. That's going to be a good game there for Frank. Finding his way to the cards he needed. Taking the long way around using the Magical Mess Remover to get rid of Flint. Now, see, that was a pretty good... Woman is doing a pretty good job of stopping Frank from pulling off the combo. Doing some weird things that he maybe wouldn't do in other matchups, like taking that extra turn where he just drew cards. He actually took back his play of playing the Black Bat, deciding I'd actually rather have more cards in my hand now that I know what the Burrow combo is trying to do against me. And it actually effectively stalled Frank out for many more turns. Frank had to go and he had to Magical Mess remove the Flint. The fact that the Flint was spent and Frank didn't get the kill meant that Wildman was definitely doing better fighting against this. And I think that, you know, once you have the knowledge, once you know what's going on, it's easier to play against for sure, obviously. But very, very cool new combo here that we are seeing for the first time in a Harry Potter event. And isn't that something cool, huh? Learning new interactions, learning new cool decks 20 years after a card game dies. That's what we're here for, man. That's what I'm into. So we're going to go ahead and get the next game paired up, or the next round paired up here. All right, so the pairings are up for round two. It looks like we have got the Diaz brothers facing off in the table one. So I was about to say in a mirror match, but it isn't quite a mirror match now, is it? We have one of these decks is a Ron deck, and the other is a Ginny deck. So um, we're going to see whether or not having that inherent character power, but losing access to Ginny is stronger than having access to Ginny, but having to pay or having to search for an item, not having that the discount, you will, on the characters early on in the game. All right, well, let's this room, get ready to spectate. Hmm. I don't see their game going up. Maybe, maybe they felt like it was silly to sit across the table from each other with these decks built physically and play against each other on untap. That seems fair to me if they were playing in person. So let's spectate table two. All right, so here we are at table two in round two. We have got who's on top? Nick, top, and Stefan is on bottom. Pretty standard starting characters here. We see the Draco the Seeker. Draco the Seeker is the one that you can use an action to look at his hand and take a card there and discard it. McGonagall, of course, one of the most popular starting characters in the game, provides that transfiguration lesson and lets you solve adventures using her power once per turn. Kind of like a get out of an adventure free card. And here we're starting to see exactly what these McGonagall decks like to do. They like to use the Transfiguration to splash Steel Claw into creatures decks that aren't running Transfiguration lessons. So we are going Charms and Creatures here, but splashing in the McGonagall anyway. And we do see Sandstone Gargoyle, one of the best, most efficient creatures in the game. It is a 3-2 if your opponent doesn't have any other creatures down. So Stefan tries to get this out as early as he can to start taking advantage of that extra damage, but nope. Checked at the gate by the Garden Gnome. The Garden Gnome, two Garden Gnomes coming down for Striker. Or sorry, I'm just always going to say Striker because I see the name there on the screen, but for Nick, get the name there for you. Nick having two of these Garden Gnomes is going to say not only does the Gargoyle lose his extra power, he's just on 1-2 now, but the Garden Gnomes are both going to trigger at the end of each of Stefan's turns. He's going to discard a card from his hand. Combined with Draco, that's going to be a 0-card hand pretty fast, unless Stefan has something to say about it. Turns out he did. He had Dobby's Disappearance, another reason to go McGonagall starter. You really just want access to those powerful Transfiguration cards, and remember, this is Classic, so of course Dobby's Disappearance is going to be here at probably a 4 of in any deck with Transfiguration cards in it. gets to basically just return an action to your opponent's hand and you get the action back. So it's even better than action neutral. Stefan goes and plays the charms down, and the response to getting one of the garden gnomes bounced back to hand is the garden gnomes are multiplying. 2 garden gnomes have popped up where one was before. Stefan is finding it annoying and difficult to weed his garden of all these gnomes. So with the 3 garden gnomes and the Draco, that's we are going to be stripping that hand away very quickly, and I do like what Nick is doing here with the strategy. It is very interesting. Hand destruction. Stefan looking at, man, because of the Harry Potter trading card game's action system, can usually only use 2 of the cards out of his hand at a time. Absent something like Seamus Finnegan, Crab and Goyle, he's going to always be getting rid of only 1 card per action. When is the timing on Garden Gnome? Garden Gnome is at the end of each of your opponent's turns. Okay. So yeah, Stefan's going to go ahead and drop a Caught by Snape. This is kind of him being like, yeah, well, you're going to take all the cards in my hand? Well, fine, then deal with this. So he puts down the Caught by Snape Adventure to gonna try and lock Nick down a little bit, stop Nick from doing what he wants to do. But Nick is already doing what he wants to do. He has Stefan right where he wants him. Going to discard 3 cards out of his hand, and they're going to be Steel Claw, Welsh Green Dragon, and Charms Lesson. And man, those garden gnomes are getting that value in now. So now we're at the point where we can discard a card to gain an action, or sorry, not to gain an action, to look at Stefan's hand, use an action, and discard 1 of those cards. Ooh, the Galleon. That's the top end of the money cards, man. Galleon is much like a wizard running around with guys. Galleon, as a money card, is a greedy card. Galleon is saying, hey, you know what? If you let this bad boy stick around and play when it pops going into my next turn, I'm going to get 3 more actions. The existence of Galleon, to me, screams Wand Shop. I'm sure that Stefan is running a Wand Shop in this deck to try and accelerate his Charms lessons. Looks like we're going to go ahead and Dobby the standard book of spells and play down another Charms. And just empty our hand out because the gnomes are here and they're going to be doing that anyway. But that's exactly where Nick wants his opponents, right? He wants to be emptying their hand, forcing them to use actions to see if they even have a card worth playing, much less have the actions to play the cards. And then just take them out of their hand anyway. Pretty cool little soft lock that he has going on here. Stefan, I think, making the right move, putting himself in the best position to be able to drop his biggest bomb, which is the Welsh Green Dragon. Unfortunately, the Welsh Green Dragon is going to require him to discard 2 Care Magical Creatures lessons, and he only ever got 1 of them down. So it might be a little bit tough for him to do. He is at that magical 7 number, though. 7 has some really powerful cards. Endless Sandwiches for 1 if he wants to refill his hand. Scribble 4s if he wants to stop his opponent. Just remove 2 things from play. Deboning if he wants to prevent his opponent from using actions to play any cards. And Reparo, another one here. Reparo lets us go and get any card from our discard pile that is a non-healing card and put it in our hand. So it looks like we are going to Reparo for, and there it is, Scribbler as I said. See, we are at that magic 7. So Scribbler is going to let us choose 2 of them. We'll be discarding 1 of these garden gnomes and putting the other one back in our opponent's hand. Maybe the lessons, actually. No, we did go for 2 of the Garden Gnomes. Stefan wants to get to a point where he has, cards that are not just whatever he top decks. He wants to actually be able to create a plan and sculpt his hand. Very difficult to create a plan and have, some kind of strategy when you have no cards and you don't know what you're going to be able to do. Hedwig coming down, puts a card back into our hand. It is, in fact, I was wondering if we got the Welsh Green back in our hand, and we didn't. I'm surprised that when we put the Welsh Green Dragon back in our hand, that we didn't use Draco to take those cards. Um. Oh wait, hold on. This isn't the Draco I thought it was, is it? Oh, this is not the other Draco, man. This is a lot worse than that Draco. This Draco is if your opponent has any cards in their hand, you can use an action and they choose one and discard it. Where the other Draco is, you may use an action to discard a card from your hand, and then look at their hand and you choose a card and discard it. And I mean, look at the number of cards in Nick's hand. I don't think he would really be struggling to pay that extra cost for a much, much stronger discard effect. Instead, Stefan is able to successfully go and get the Welsh Green Dragon from his discard pile, put it back into his hand, and now he has the Welsh Green Dragon, which is what we were talking about. That's his highest end bomb that he wants to be able to play in a situation where he's restricted to only being able to do one big thing a turn. He gets the Welsh Green Dragon down. He does that 6 damage on the way in to the face, and now he's presenting this, 8 damage a turn. And we have to see what Nick has as far as creature removal, because he is playing Charms, and Charms is the color for removal spells and burn damage to creatures. So putting us at 6 actions right now, I think we're a little bit under where I'd like us to be for lesson power, but 6 is still strong enough to be able to remove at least the Hedwig and the Gargoyle. I would really like to see something done to this dragon, though, because the dragon is going to be the problem. So Stefan passes the turn, and he discards down for the goblins. Now, Hover Charm is here. Hover Charm, perfect. That's exactly what we want to see against the dragon. Hover Charm is just going to choose one of the cards in play and bounce it back to the hand. So Hover Charm, again, Chamber of Secrets common here. Going to say, get rid of that permanent. Chamber of Secrets had a lot of counterplay and a lot of really, really interesting mechanics. Confundus, whoa. This is a cool one. So, Confundus is your opponent chooses 2 cards and discards them, so that's basically just going to be a straight discard 2. We are going to hit Stefan's Welsh Green Dragon that we put back into his hand, as well as a Care Magical Creatures lesson it looks like he was holding on to. And with no Care Magical Creatures lessons on the table, actually, Stefan's not even going to be able to play a threat if he draws one. So that's why for his turn there, we see that he played a Care Magical Creatures lesson for turn. Oh, Letters from No One coming down from the control deck here. Letters from No One is an adventure that says your opponent may only use actions to draw cards. So the fun thing here is he's forcing Stefan to use his actions to draw cards, and then he's going to be ripping the cards out of his hand with the Goblin Gnomes and the Draco. And the way that you solve Letters from No One is by discarding 5 cards from your hand. So this is one of the big payoffs for Nick's deck, for Nick's strategy, is he's going to take away all of the cards from Stefan's hand, so Stefan can't solve Letters from No One. Because this isn't solving this by discarding them over time. Like, some people might be more familiar with... Oh, Letters from No One just went somewhere. Is this Steel Claw, right? How did we get rid of Letters from No One? Oh, we McGonagalled it. Sorry, we tapped McGonagall. I didn't see that. But it forces your opponent to use actions to draw cards, and your opponent has to discard all 5 cards at once to solve it. It's not like Caught by Snape, where you can invest over time. You have to discard all 5 cards at once to solve. So Stefan knows his only way out, once he's down here in this position where he has no cards in hand, is to use McGonagall. Excuse me, I'm so sorry about these yawns. I had a very long day at work. I woke up early. I know it's no excuse. Really should have done some jumping jacks or something before I got on stream. So it looks like this is one of the tough things about using your McGonagall. I mean, your opponent had a billion cards in his hand, so you use McGonagall to break out of Letters from No One, and in fact, they just have another Letters from No One. Now, where Stefan is going to come out on top here is the fact that while Nick is doing an awful lot of stuff to slow down Stefan and to discard cards and to lock him down, he isn't doing anything proactive at all. We haven't seen him do any damage really to Stefan's face. We've only seen him develop cards that make Stefan discard and take advantage of Stefan's low number of cards in hand. But, I mean, this right now, we just saw our first creature, the Marble Gargoyle, 5-drop. We're going to Hover Charm the Sandstone Gargoyle, I imagine, back to our opponent's hand. It's a little bit late for this stuff. I mean, Hedwig's going to deal a damage and we're going to draw a card. We literally have one more turn to win this game. I think this is going to game 2. And that's game 1. Even though we were able to kind of slow Stefan down, Stefan is playing the right breaking point creatures. He's playing those creatures that explode on those certain lesson counts on 5, on 3, on 7. Because we see, you know, he starts with the lessons. So in those kinds of decks with Professor McGonagall, since you have 2 actions a turn, those even number actions open you up for big turns on odd drop cards. So if we play 2 lessons turn 1, turn 2, we can drop 2 gargoyles and things like that. In fact, we're gonna... Oh, never mind. It's the other gargoyle. I was gonna say we're gonna see that happen right away. So there's the right gargoyle, but we don't have the right lesson type. So we're just gonna play 2 charms and pass. But I really like, and even in a lot of our creature decks, Black Bat is a really powerful creature and still doesn't make the cut in most of them. The creatures that make the cut in our decks are Giant Tarantula, Sandstone Gargoyle, Marble Gargoyle, and Hedwig because she gets a card back from the discard pile, and Welsh Green Dragon because it's such an explosive. It's probably the most efficient creature, and can often win a game if they don't answer it. Even if they do answer it, it's usually still a staggering amount of damage. 10% of their deck. He deals 10% of their deck every turn. So both of these guys just playing a gentleman's game, just going to keep slamming down those lessons. Stefan really, really wishes that he was seeing a Care Magical Creatures lesson because this is exactly what he wants when he's running the gargoyles. He wants his opponent to just be building because he just wants to just jam the gargoyles down as early as possible. Do not judge this deck for it is too fluffy. Oh, I was saying that he's got to have the wand shops in there because we saw the I don't remember what other expensive card it was. Oh, but there it is. He finally draws it. But he's saying the point of this deck is this is a fluffy deck. That's fair. Fluffy is one of the big scary monsters in the game, right? It's a 10 cost, 12 health or 12 damage, 21 health creature that makes you discard 2 Care Magical Creature lessons when it comes into play. Fluffy is an iconic character, obviously, in Harry Potter, so players get very excited about this creature. Yes, it is the biggest creature at 12 damage and 21 health. The funny thing about Fluffy, and we actually wrote a Card of the Week article about Fluffy, and about how Fluffy isn't quite as good as you might think on paper. The 21 health is largely irrelevant, because just like in the movie, just like in the book, your opponent is never actually going to fight Fluffy. They're just going to find a way to get around it. They're either going to sneak through the trapdoor, they're going to put it to sleep, they're going to put it back in your hand. Something's going to happen, and that Fluffy is not sticking around. But it is a really, really fun card. And what, if we're in a free weekly events, where else are you going to just jam a Fluffy deck, huh? Nothing wrong with that at all. So we play a Peeves down to help us improve, consistency and let us unload and reload. And it is answered with letters from no one. Peeves is not getting his Hogwarts letter. And there are letters flying around everywhere. So unfortunately, Peeves can only use actions to draw cards. Our opponent, rather. But, McGonagall, I guess, is the one who can only use actions to draw cards. And in order to solve that, we're going to have to discard 5 of the cards from our hand. Of course, putting us in that easy to manipulate low hand size area for most of the rest of the game. But thankfully, we played Peeves, and Peeves is kind of our insurance against our hand ever getting too low. We are going to McGonagall out of this early letters. I think that's because we want to just start. Yep, exactly. We're going to put down the Care Magical Creatures and then the 5-drop Gargoyle. And we're going to make our opponent have a creature to stop this Gargoyle damage, and we're going to make him play it down right away. And now what's cool about that is all of a sudden, if Nick wanted to play another Letters from No One or another adventure, he's in a much worse spot because he's immediately taking 5 damage. Remember, this is a different Gargoyle. Same principle. If your opponent doesn't have a creature, it deals extra damage. But this one is a 2/3 that becomes a 5/3 if they have no creatures. So by playing this card, you're telling Nick, you're forcing Nick to play out one of these Garden Gnomes, even though the amount of cards in your hand doesn't really mean that this is the best play for him yet. And Stefan is going to respond to that Garden Gnome coming down with a Caught by Snape, just like we saw him do in the last game. The Garden Gnome is going to be slowly taking away cards from his hand, and it's slowing him down a lot. But the Caught by Snape is also going to slow down Nick so much that Nick's going to have to choose one, right? Nick is going to have to choose that when he breaks out of the Snape, he's going to have sunk 3 actions into solving it. He's either going to have to take those actions and invest them and use that to be proactive, or he's going to have to use that to try and stop Stefan from doing what he's doing. And you're not going to be able to do both anymore, right? Because the Snape is just taking away too many actions. So I think last game we decided to keep trying to lock Stefan down. I think this game I would really like to see us focus more on just dropping creatures. I want to see us play 3 lessons to get out of the Caught by Snape, and then I just want to see us slam 3 of those down. So we did get one lesson. We got a charms lesson down. That's one counter onto the Caught by Snape. Gringotts Vault Key coming in. And that's going to be go ahead and search your deck for any old card and put it in your hand. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Wand Shop, the card of choice here. And it sure is. So now Wand Shop is actually going to double all the Charms lessons in play. So now all the Charms lessons are providing 2. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10. And that's the magic number. We are at Fluffy capacity. Now, unfortunately, we don't have the Fluffies in our hand. Because of our opponent's discard effects earlier, we got rid of the most expensive card. I don't think that that was the wrong decision. However, we are now at our nice meme number of lessons, and we are unable to play our meme card, which is a little bit unfortunate, but that's okay. Man, you just you want to see the Fluffy so bad, dude. So sorry, I was peeking at something else coming back into this real fast. We got down another Gargoyle kind of going to town on our opponent's deck here, and we're starting to see a lot of the same thing that we saw last game. We see that Stefan here, he knows that he's going to be having his hand attack, so he's just investing in things that are going to do damage over time or get him value over time, like these creatures. And the Peeves, of course, while refilling his hand, is also just another 7 damage that his opponent really can't afford. And we're going to just start dobbying things back to his hand. Probably Garden Gnome, followed shortly by a dobby on the Charms lesson, I would imagine. Um, and then the fact that we could do a Steel Claw after that, and the Steel Claw, oh yeah, is coming down here, and that's going to be 10. We have another Steel Claw in hand and another Dobby. I like what Stefan's doing here. He's holding the Dobby to bounce if a creature gets played. But I think no matter what, this is it. It's over. Even if a creature gets played, he has to draw a card for turn. And again, we see another game where Nick, he has a really cool control strategy on the hand, but all it takes is a couple creatures on the board, and the creatures just smacking him in the face while he tries to establish that control are unfortunately going to end the game a little bit too soon for him to actually do something with this nice look. We built up to 8 lessons, 9 lessons. We've got some power here. Memory Charm, I imagine, might be in the list. And some other just really cool high-end drops on these control style decks and charms and creatures. But unfortunately, we aren't going to get there because of this pressure from these low to the ground, low curve, high pressure creatures and the gargoyles with Welsh Green at the top. Peeves also helping there a lot. Peeves, I don't think people really understand how powerful this card is for so many different things. Peeves is a way to deal 7 damage to your opponent. Peeves is a way to disrupt your opponent's hand. Peeves is a way to turn a bounce into removal. Peeves is a way to refill your hand. Peeves is a way to invest actions early into getting out of things like escaping the Dursleys, getting out of things like the Burrow combo, any hand lock. Peeves is just an extremely powerful card. Dog bite is that, did we really just win this with dog bite? I love that. Dude, the art on this card is so funny. Use a creature in play. A creature does damage to your opponent equal to that creature's printed damage. I think we just used dog bite to win just for fun. Oh, we're showing Fluffy dog bite. That's what it is. Did we even get? Did he get to the Fluffy, or did he just look for his deck? Oh no, he was just showing him. He's like, the whole point of this deck was the Fluffy and to dog bite. I love that. But unfortunately, no. Fluffy didn't get to come down. Maybe in the next round, Fluffy will finally make their debut. I believe that's actually both of the games for that round as well, guys. So let's move on to our final round. All right, in round 3, we've got at the top table is a Stefan versus Frank rematch. Guys, were the finals last week. Oh, sorry, that's actually Michael. Michael won last week. So this time it's another Diaz brother is here to fight Stefano for the #1 spot. Stefano, of course, with one of those creature decks, and like we were saying earlier, that is kind of one of the strong things against that combo. And just like it is against VTJ and Dobby's Help, taking the combo pieces and putting them in the discard pile via damage, via creature damage, is actually a really, really neat angle for counterplay on those kinds of strategies. All right, let's get the pairings up for everybody. All right, pairings are up for round 3. And Stefan versus Frank at the top table. Now, this is one that, like I said, this combo, the Burrow VT, or sorry, not Burrow VTJ, the Burrow Snuffling combo is so cool and it's so neat and very fun. And we wanted to talk about it so bad, but we knew that like it was best in a reveal in like an event or some kind of like people seeing the deck and playing against it was the kind of the coolest way to find out about it. So I know that Stefan specifically very excited about getting to see a new card combo, but I'm sure he is equally as excited to play against it here in this next round and kind of test his might against the new deck. All right, these guys should be up. They are. Let's get in here. Spectate this game. Oh man, I'm a little late actually. These guys are off to the races. I was just answering a question on Facebook. All right, and let me change these names. This is going to be finals. Here is Frank Diaz on the bottom, playing a different type of Ron list, and on the top is going to be Stefan. Both of these guys playing a pretty simple early game. Is going to be lesson to lesson jitty, and the jitty certainly having the edge there. Ginny is already drawing Frank an extra card at the beginning of his turn, and it's only going to get better from there. And oh my goodness, so Frank, anticipating that his opponent has Dobby type stuff ready to go, is going to just start trying to mess with his opponent. He's going to Dobby the Care of Magical Creatures lesson to stop Stefan from playing Dobby or from playing a creature until he plays it down again. So here he is forcing him to play the lesson and then into the Marble Gargoyle. Frank knows that the creatures are going to be a little bit of a problem for him because he probably doesn't have any creature hate baked into the deck. So Frank is trying to slow the creature stuff down a little bit as he gets up to 5 lessons. But now he's in kill range. So Frank is up to 5. He has both potion and charms in on the table. So now from here on out, Stefan has to worry about the size of his hand and look out for cards like Marcus Flint. Frank, oh my goodness, Hannah Abbott is another amazing investment from Frank, and he is going to play the Burrow early. So this is Frank is kind of putting it all out on the table and saying, "I bet you don't have an answer for this, um, you know, and I'm gonna play as much of it as I can now, so that I can just start using those actions to draw cards." Also, investing the Hannah Abbott says that if Stefan sends any of the pieces of the combo to the damage zone, it's like Frank drew them, right? So what Frank's really looking for now is he's looking for Marcus Flint and Snuffling Potions. He wants to stop Stefan from being able to load up his hand early, and he also wants to make sure that he gets the combo off. Stefan, now that he sees the Burrow is down, is immediately going to start playing differently. He's going to start playing to keep a hand size of a certain minimum number of cards. And again, one of the cool things about this combo is that this is a brand new way to play and a new level of counterplay for the Harry Potter trading card game, where you now have to worry against certain matchups about how few cards are in your hand. And the neat thing about that is that's kind of the exact opposite of how the popular VTJ deck works, where you have to worry about how many cards are in your hand. So now we've got Frank has got the Seamus down. He's getting those extra actions. Basically, everything he's doing is he's trying to get Stefan into the sweet spot here. And Stefan knows it. He knows that Frank's got the bait out. He knows that Frank is fishing to get his hand to that size. So he's trying to walk that line of getting enough creature pressure down, but also keeping a larger hand size. Stefan is I love this because this is a brand new deck. Nobody has seen this besides our group before today. So they're like seeing it and trying to figure out how to play Harry Potter against it at the same time, which is one of the coolest things about these revival groups for these old games, right? Is that, you know, all of these years later, players are still developing on what people thought we knew. And it makes it, as a player who enjoys playing the game, it makes it so exciting to find a new layer, a new way to play it. And there it is. He hits the combo there. Sorry, I'm actually answering a lot of questions about. There was like a judge ruling about this. I'm answering somebody else's question about this. Is this a cool dude deck? But who was it there that got that one? I think actually that Stefan won that one, right? Because he was getting that high damage against Frank. And Quasali Pride won last game. Yeah, so Frank, even though Frank was, we saw him get set up, we saw him get there, we saw him get to where he needed to be for the combo. He wasn't able to get the Marcus Flint or able to discard enough cards from hand. And Stefan was able to stay at a higher number of cards. So again, now we're already seeing here how the difference between the Ron and the Ginny version, right? So the Ginny version is more dedicated to just doing the secret combo. The Ron version of this deck is trying to do some more normal Ron stuff and also kind of sneaking in. Um, it's pretty neat to see, you know, how you could put this combo into a few different styles of deck. Professor Snape is coming down here for Frank. Nothing wrong with that. It's basically the equivalent of playing a super lesson for turn. But it looks like he's going to... He drew for turn and then played that Snape. It's not at all where you want to be. Fun is going to drop Errol on the next turn, reveal that top card of his deck. If it's a lesson, of course, he gets to put it into play. It is just a Steel Claw, so it's going to go to his hand there. Does Errol draw you that card? That's pretty good. If it's a lesson card, put it into play. If not, put it back on top of your deck. Frank is going to get Seamus into play. With one action from the Ron, we're going to discard McGonagall because we can't use her with our opponent's McGonagall out, and the Burrow to gain an action. Probably to play either a Ginny or just another character here. You really want to see Ginny if you're this deck right now because you want to start drawing those cards, but you wouldn't hate to see Peeves or potentially even the what you call it. Marcus Flint. I don't know why I couldn't think of his name. Marcus Flint, the discard 3 cards character. Looks like Frank is gaining actions here, but not using them for anything besides drawing cards, which means, we're not finding that Ginny, so we're using those extra actions to draw. It is Peeves that we play next with our first action this turn. And Marcus Flint is the second. So this is already one of the things you want to get down early. It's going to be a high priority Dobby target for your opponent because it has no value. Like, Seamus and Snape are getting value by being on the table, but Flint is just waiting for that one trigger turn. So by removing Flint, you kind of set them back on that turn. Frank is going to discard 2 and gain an action to play another card here. And he's just going to keep doing that, and he's going to be aggressively playing and building and going low on cards because of the Peeves, but also because of the Ginny. One cool thing about Peeves is while Peeves is still good for all the reasons that we say before, Peeves here is going to be a way to start your opponent's turn at 7 cards, kind of mitigating any defense they've built up past 7 cards for cards in hand. So we are going to just keep building here, and Stefan has got the dreaded Caught by Snape into play. Now Frank is going to have to build his way through this, but one of the reasons I actually don't think this is that strong from Stefan here is because this is exactly what Frank wants to do. Frank needs to build up to 5 to play the Burrow Snuffling Potion combo, and he's only showing 2 on the table. So Frank has to play 3 lessons down no matter what. Playing the Snape before he plays those lessons actually takes 2 actions away from yourself. I think that Caught by Snape is really powerful and just always feels like a good thing to do against an opponent who's setting something up. But I think in this exact situation, since you could tell Frank is going to drop 2 lessons anyway, I think you wait for him to play 2 lessons, because right now he's at 5. He's at where he wants to be. When he solves his Caught by Snape, he is at the right perfect lesson count. He never wants to play another lesson. That's when you drop the Caught by Snape and you make him play 3 lessons he's not going to use. Especially because starting McGonagall yourself, you're forcing your opponent to answer it in an honest way. What's it gonna be? So Frank breaks out of the caught by Snape and is biting. He plays as a snuffling potion. Of course, the burrow has been popped, and there it is. Okay, Stefan, I take it back. I like this caught by Snape, although I don't take it back all the way, because you know what would have been really nice is when he breaks out of this caught by Snape to have dropped the other caught by... No, but I mean, hey, you know, in the end, we did have a caught by Snape to punish him when he got to the 5 lessons. So we see that he's going to use Snape here, and he's going to heal 7 cards. It's probably going to be mostly lesson cards, if not all lesson cards that Frank heals, which is telling that he has the combo pieces in his hand. Nope, it is in fact going to be a Snuffling that he adds back in, so maybe we don't have all of the combo pieces that we want. Putting back 2 Snufflings in a Burrow, or no, 2 Snufflings, a Draco, and 4 lessons back into the deck. The absence of Ginny really hurting Frank here. Although, thankfully, the only creature that he's going against right now is Errol. So Frank has actually dealt more damage to himself by drawing cards than the creatures have dealt to him this game, which is going to be good for him. Oof, oof, oof. Frank playing from behind here for sure. I mean, he's got some of the pieces that he's looking for in his hand, but having to get through that second caught by Snape, Stefan keeping him honest here was just an aggro creatures deck and the caught by Snape. And oh no, Scribblifors is going to start picking stuff apart for Frank here. I would be shocked if the choice wasn't between, no way, Marcus Flint and what was the other card? I just am shocked it wasn't Snape. I know that Snape's already used his healing, but Snape is the only potion source here. But Marcus Flint makes sense. So Marcus Flint is the one that we put to the discard pile, which meant we decided to keep the other card. I believe it was Hannah Abbott. Hannah could have been good too there. I think that we already used Hannah, or sorry, that we already used Snape. And that Hannah didn't have access to any more lessons in the discard pile, but using Hannah to put 2 lessons in your hand is a cool way to solve a caught by Snape. Frank is getting punished by this caught by Snape, though. I think that we've cut a few of our usual suspects to fit the Burrow combo in here, and it is leaving us susceptible to those strong classic strategies. The classic strategies kind of thing. Oh man, and that is is that the game? Did they hold on, I missed. Frankie drew from deck to discard. Vaughn drew one from deck to hand. With a play. And then they reset and shuffled. Wait, so oh man, this is it's my fault. I looked away. But these guys are playing a third game, so I think that Frank must have found the combo. Uh right? He must have. God, I'm really upset that I looked away and this game ended. Um, Modified counters from 1 to 2. Then Frank took 10 damage. Actually, I think we lost. I think that was 2-0, right? Maybe, but they're playing again and they're not reporting. I missed something. It's got to be 1-1 at this point. Frank getting the Marcus Flint down turn 1, and he is missing what we call the God Start. The God Start is literally any start that has Ginny in it. Although the real God Start for Ron is Seamus, Ginny, and then a third character. But yeah, Ginny is the card that you want to see because she helps you see all the other cards. And unfortunately, it's Marcus Flint and the trifecta of lessons here. At least Frank gets all of his colors fixed early. But what you really don't like is discarding lessons to the creatures, seeing your opponent hit 3 creatures on turn 3, and basically having played a ton of your outs to Caught by Snape just so boldly, so early without seeing the Snape. Things could go south very fast for Frank here if a Caught by Snape comes down in the next 2 turns. Oh, Frank is using Marcus Flint. I would like to see Marcus Flint lesson Snuffling would be pretty gross. Like Marcus Flint lesson Snuffling, then next turn lesson Burrow Snuffling. Oh no, you can't lesson Burrows. Damn. I'm trying here, Frank. You do get some decent information here, though. Marcus Flint is going to get Fluffy out of the hand, Scribble 4 is out of the hand, and this next choice seems like it's pretty tough for him here. We do have to get rid of one more card. Stefan, what's it gonna be? I can't see his cards, or I could speculate. I could speculate wildly. And Steel Claw is going to be the last one. Yeah, I understand. I get it. That's a hard one to get rid of. There's got to be Dobbies and Steel Claws in the hand, right? So now, yeah. Now Frank, he jams a card into play. and he jams 2 Dobby's Disappearances and gets rid of both of the gargoyles and then plays a Snuffling Potion. Now that's a hell of a turn. So Frank starts off with the Marcus Flint, gets rid of a bunch of cards from hand, gets some information on the cards from hand, then uses 2 Dobby's Disappearance to return the both of the Sandstone Gargoyles, then Snuffling Potions, and says Stefan can't draw any extra cards on his turn. Now Frank is going to draw for his turn here. He's got 4 lessons down. And remember, Snuffling Potion costs 4, but the Burrow costs 5. So he can't quite do it here. He either needs a way to get a third action or he needs to start the turn with 5 lessons. Although technically, and I know he's not playing it in this deck, but you can play the Burrow, then play Platform 9 3/4 and discard one of your lessons, then play Snuffling Potion. Right? Oh no. No, sorry, you're at 0 actions before you get to the Platform 9 3/4. Even though Platform gives you +1 lesson. Or +1 action, rather. Ooh, Wamin took it 2-0 against Mike Diaz. Frankie's got a bunch of lessons, but that's about it. Stefan is just plowing through with these gargoyles. Oh man, it's just like slow, thoughtful plays at this point. All right, so we go to Frank's turn here. He got up to 5, and his opponent is in the kill zone. But the fact that he's not slamming these cards down to me says that we're missing... Oh, man. There's only one Snuffling Potion left. There's one Snuffling Potion left in the whole deck, and he needs it. The Hannah Abbott's also... I mean, he can find a Hannah Abbott, but that's just so much slower. And without any Seamus or really any other characters down... How strange a Ron deck without any other characters besides Marcus Flint. But this deck is just, he's going to need to draw that Snuffling. If the fourth Snuffling goes to the discard pile, I think that might just be it for Frank. He's probably sitting on a Burrow in his hand because there's only one Burrow in here. But the fact that it's like looking at 3 VTJs in your discard pile and you need 2 to win, you know, it's one of the reasons that I think, and this is interesting because this came up in the Facebook group today. There was a player who said that they used to like this TCG until they realized that damage effects discard the top card of your deck, and that's a horrible design, and that it's no fun because milling your deck is not fun because you don't get to play your cards. I can see... I mean, obviously, if I were to rank unfun strategies that are popular in card games, mill is probably close to the top for the person on the receiving end. But I think it's an important, viable strategy. I think there are players who really like mill decks, and those types of players are always looking for this style. And I think that the mill players, usually they have to kind of like go way out of their way for this like janky strat that doesn't quite get there. In this game, I think that the mill decks are a little more powerful because of the fact that taking anything off the top of their deck, you know, damage that can be, you know, like milling cards is milling, but also damaging them is milling. So like, if you think of it, really the only way to win the game is by quote unquote milling your opponent's deck. But for that reason, I like how that works with the game. I like how if you're going to play a card like Ginny that gives you an insane card advantage, it is directly punishing your deck. You're basically taking life damage to draw extra cards. It's like the Warlock hero power in Hearthstone. It's just a really neat balancing act of drawing all the cards of your deck fast and then winning before they beat you. But it also makes you weak to creature strategies, and we saw the creature decks actually do quite well against the Diaz brothers here this week. So I believe that that is a 2-1 win here for Stefan. And that means that Stefan is going to be the winner this week. Let's go ahead and get the final results up so we can post them into the Discord for you guys. I'm sorry, normally I'm a little more chatty. We were a little quiet during some of the rounds today, but I was answering a lot of questions off screen about this new deck, and also I was eating dinner myself during the round, so sorry guys. But you know, hey, we do what we can to bring you guys these fun tournaments, so I hope everybody enjoyed hanging out and watching this event tonight. First place goes to Stefan with his Fluffy deck that really is just a ignore Fluffy entirely, his low to the ground creature deck. It's like a creature aggro deck. I mean, the charms stuff is in there to accelerate his lessons. Getting those early gargoyles just really, really powerful. Of course, Frank is coming in second place with Ron using the secret combo of course, the Burrow and Snuffling Potion. Wamin coming in third place, also 2-1. And then Nick and Mike tied for fourth there, guys. So we have another one of these next Tuesday. Come on by anytime. We'd love to see you. We'd love to have you in the event. Next week, we will be back to a Revival event. And then Classic will be, you know, we're going to start alternating every other week. So, going to be a good time. But until then, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.